I was scammed. I was scammed out of close to $100,000 by a professional con artist, a con woman, the Irish heiress. I loved her as much as any gay man can love a woman. One point, she pretends to be best friends with Jennifer Aniston. At that point, I'm a reality television producer, right? I've worked on some big shows like Shark Tank and American Ninja Warrior. Initially, police turned me away. Some people play golf on the weekends. I hunt con artists.
I'm here with Jonathan Walton, a producer and author. His new book, Anatomy of a Con Artist, is out everywhere. Jonathan, you have a really interesting story, and I'm sorry for everything that you've been through, but I hope our audience can get a lot out of it. So
yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and it's a mixed bag, right? Because on the one hand, it was devastating and felt like the end of the world when it was happening. But on the other hand, look what it turned me into. I'm like this vigilante. I'm like helping people avoid getting scammed, helping people once they did get scammed. I say this all the time. Some people play golf on the weekends. I hunt con artists.
That's a real vigilante justice type of approach. Now that you've been through getting conned yourself, now you're kind of working to take other scammers to justice and
Absolutely.
to educate people as to what they should be looking out for in their own life. So let's back up a second. For those that don't know you, what's kind of the high level of your story?
Long story short, I was scammed. I was scammed out of close to $100,000 by a professional con artist, a con woman, the Irish heiress. And I was one of these people back in the day. I can't get scammed. There's no way there's no way I can get scammed. I was one of those people. Come to find out, those are the kinds of victims con artists are looking for.
Wow.
Because it's a paradox, right? And the older I get, life is just a series of paradoxes, paradox after paradox. If you think you can't get scammed, ironically, your defenses are down. If you think it can't happen to you, you're not super suspicious of people. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And they love those marks. They love those marks. Bravado.
I guess I'm a mark. I think
if you think you can't get scammed, you're a mark. Absolutely. I was a mark and I didn't even know it.
Wow.
So over the course of 4 years, she quickly became my best friend. She became like a sister to me. I loved her as much as any gay man can love a woman. We would end phone calls with, I love you. And, at the time.
So this isn't just someone like calling you blind saying, oh, I work for the CIA. This is like someone who's really integrated herself into your life.
And the book is chock full of those stories of victims I've interviewed and cases I've investigated, hundreds of cases over the past 8 years. The con artist is someone you know. You just don't know they're a con artist because they haven't scammed you yet. And the people they are scamming are people you know, but they're not talking about it. No one's talking about it. There's such a level of shame that silences victims, which has a lot to do with one of the red flags I write about. We'll talk about later, TMI. The TMI technique keeps people quiet after they get scammed. So over the course of 4 years, she's an Irish heiress. I'm helping her get her inheritance. I want to punch myself in the face when I say that out loud, but it's true. But it's so much more nuanced than that. She created these characters over texts and email and over her iPad screen and laptop screen. And that's another red flag I write about in the book, the red flag of technology. She's using digital screens to sell her story. Look what so-and-so said. Look what so-and-so said. Here's my bank account.
Because it feels more realistic.
Absolutely. And how many times has someone held up their cell phone? Look what this person texted me. Did you ever for a second think, wait a minute, that's not that person. That's an account you created on Google to text yourself and sell me the story. Exactly.
Oh my
No
God.
one thinks that. But this is what con artists do. They create these characters and they trick you. So I got tricked, and little did I know, because people are like, well, Jonathan, she only got $100,000 over 4 years. That's $25,000 a year. That's not a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Well, while she was scamming me, she was scamming dozens of other people at the same time. And she was a shapeshifter. She had different characters. For me, she was an Irish heiress. For other people, she was a psychologist. She was working as a psychologist in Los Angeles, but she's not a psychologist. It's a scam.
What?
She printed up a fake degree. She had like a dozen patients. She was scamming using the intimate details of their lives against them. And then she was working as a psychic. She was working as a witch. She later would go on to found a Church of Satan and change her name to Lucia Belaya. So while she's scamming me, she has all these other characters. She's impersonating a lawyer, a private investigator. At one point, she pretends to be best friends with Jennifer Aniston. And she's scamming this other woman, inviting this woman to the Golden Globes one year. And again, Jennifer would text her. Look, Jennifer just texted me. So, and for people not in Los Angeles, this sounds like a far-fetched thing, but you and I both know, living here, we know people who probably know Jennifer Aniston or Renee Zellweger or any one of those kinds of A-list Hollywood stars. So it wasn't so far-fetched, but this is all while she's scamming me. She's scamming dozens of others, and she's raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it. I had no idea.
Wow.
And out of all her victims, I'm the only one who confronted her. Really? I confronted her. I went to police. They laughed at me. Initially, police turned me away. They said, quote, "This is not a crime." And I just lost my shit. Because, at that point, I'm a reality television producer, right? I've worked on some big shows like Shark Tank and American Ninja Warrior. So I'm a smart guy, and that's what people say to me all the time. You're such a smart guy.
You've got the gift of gab.
How did you get scammed? Like, you're such a smart guy. How did you get scammed? And I reply, like I say in the book, again and again and again, con artists don't outsmart you. They outfeel you. They use your emotions against me. And how my con artist got into my life so quickly and profoundly and deeply. At the time, part of my family had disowned me for being gay. I hadn't been home for Christmas in almost 8 years. So my con artist concocted the perfect story to get in with me. She said, well, my family disowned me too because they're trying to get me disinherited. And she would show me these horrendous texts calling her the C word from her cousins, Fintan and Tristan and Dermot.
And it was all fake.
All fake. She was not from Ireland. She was from Maine. She was just a con woman.
She just has a bunch of different Gmail addresses.
Yes,
a bunch
23
of different...
I found.
23
but those are the ones I found. Imagine the ones I did not find. Probably hundreds. Over the course of her life, I come to find out because I've interviewed her family. I went to her hometown. I'm shooting a documentary about it called Hunting the Irish Heiress.
I like it.
But when she was a kid, she convinced, so she's going to like grade school, right? She's a little girl. She convinces her friends and neighbors that she's got cancer and needs money for treatment, but don't tell my mother because we're so ashamed and that we don't have enough money. So she started raising thousands of dollars as a kid. And when the mother found out, she was furious. These are the kinds of scams she ran as a child. As a teenager in high school, I heard this from her high school boyfriend, one of her high school boyfriends. She had many. She would date college guys and then tell them all that she got pregnant and needs money for an abortion. The perfect scam. Who's going to say no? They all paid her hundreds of dollars each for an abortion, and no one ever thought about it again. But these are the kinds of scams she was running since she was a kid. Like, she's a dyed-in-the-wool psychopath con woman. This was my best friend for 4 years.
Wow.
I thought I knew her, but no, I only knew the image she created. So police turned me away. I, eventually got them interested. I built a compelling case. I found 40-something other victims, and I built a criminal case they could not ignore. And while this is all going along, I'm learning the tricks of the criminal justice system. Pitching a criminal case to police, come to find out, is like pitching a television show to a network executive.
Really?
You got to make it sexy. You can't just show up one day to the cops, oh, I got scammed. They don't care. They got murders and rapes and people covered in blood begging for their help. You got scammed? Like, go to civil court. That's what they tell you. But that's not true, because in most states, California included, anything close to $1,000, if they get money from you based on a lie, that's a felony, punishable by years in jail.
Wire fraud or
exactly.
What? Yeah.
Exactly. But the cop on the front lines taking the police reports, he's the arbiter, and you have to sell him. So before you go to police, in the last chapter of the book, I walk people through step by step. If you have been scammed, here's what you do. You got to think of it like a presentation you're making in college, like a speech class in college. You got to have props. You got to have your log line. You got to have your sentence of what happened. Then you got to Vanna White with the evidence you have. You got to print out your emails and text messages and bank records. You got to put on a show.
Whoa.
In 10 minutes. And so many cases I've helped victims with, they get turned away by police. I tell them exactly what to do. They go back and they get a report taken and an investigation started. There's a way to do this that no one's talking about, but I am. Nobody tells the victim the onus is on them to prove your case. But that's the truth.
Right.
If you think you can go to police, file a report, and walk away and they'll handle it, no, they won't. No, you got to nag them. You got to call about your case every day because, listen, in a major city like Los Angeles, there are thousands of police reports every day. So every time you call about your case gets taken from the bottom of the pile and placed at the top. And then there's some discussion like, hey, this guy, Jonathan's calling again about this. What, anyone working on that? Like you get them interested.
It's like navigating the healthcare and insurance system.
It is, except there's so much on the line. And again, there's no book. I mean, I can't believe I'm the one who had to write this book. Like there's no one talking about this. When a cop turns you away telling you what happened to you is not a crime, like what do you do?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And you're already so devastated because you're out of money,
you're
you've been betrayed, you're trying to go to the police thinking they're going to help, and now you're saying that you have to be the one to like present the case for them.
You got to host that show. It's a show that you got to put on and get them hooked.
So to the person that is thinking, oh, this will never happen to me, which I think a lot of people think.
Yeah.
How does a con artist, how does it begin?
So con artists, I come to find out, are actually everywhere. And if you're listening to this or watching this program right now, you know a con artist. They just haven't scammed you yet. Case in point, my own mother. So after I went public with my con, sorry, hit the mic. After I went public with my con, like a year or two later, I got tons of publicity. Other victims started contacting me for help. I got written up in the New York Times. They did a profile on me, Hundreds of other victims, hundreds from all over the world started contacting me for help, like telling me I inspired them. They want to go after their con artists. What can they do? So, not knowing any better, again, some people play golf on the weekends. I started hunting con artists, I became fascinated. And as I started investigating these cases, it quickly dawned on me, wait a minute. The techniques that all these disparate con men and con women are using on their victims are identical to the techniques my con woman used on me. Huh. So I started making notes. I'm like, that's a red flag. They offered to help. That is red flag number 1 in my book. The vast majority of con artists will enter their victims' lives offering to help. Because who doesn't love a helper? It disarms you. They figure out what your problem is and they want to help you. And with my con woman, she did that to all her victims. There was one victim she met on Tinder. Oh my God, the dating apps are so effing dangerous. That is con artist chum.
Right.
They're on the dating apps.
Like the Tinder swindler was
and these are just cases we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Imagine the ones that no one's talking about, My con artist met a guy who was this engineer in Newport Beach. She goes on a date with him. He ultimately helped me convict her, thank God. He was a good guy. But he confesses on his first date that he's not happy with the custody arrangement with his children. So she offers to help. She says, well, I'm a child custody investigator for the courts of LA County. I can help you. So all of a sudden, and remember what I said earlier, con artists don't outsmart you, they outfeel you. Uh-huh. All of a sudden, this engineer, now it's time with his kids on the line. And he wants the help. So now he's thinking with his heart and not his head. She infiltrates his life for 6 months and she tricks him. She wants to get married. He thinks he loves her. He's convinced she loves him. They go looking for a house. She lays the inheritance scam on him too. Like I got this $25 million inheritance coming in. I want to buy a house. She gets a realtor in Newport Beach. They look at a dozen, 15, 12 million, $10 million homes. Whoa. She finds one she wants. She puts an offer in. She gets a home inspection, puts an offer in. There is no money, but it looks like there is. She's got a realtor. She's got a written offer. She's ordering a home inspection. This is happening. And she tells the guy, listen, I want to put this house in your name too. I want to share this house with you. And he says, no. If you do that, I'll own half your home. And if our relationship goes south, that's not fair. So she's like, okay, if you want to make it fair, just add my name to the titles of your 2 homes.
Oh my gosh.
So she draws up the paperwork for him to add her name to his homes in Newport Beach. And it's right at that time I bust her. I started the blog. His ex-wife found my blog because she's spending all this time with his kids. And he brought his kids to the house she's going to buy to pick out their bedrooms. That's how far she got with him. But in the nick of time, my blog saved him. Publicity is like kryptonite to con artists. That's why it's so important as a victim to speak up. But most victims do not speak up. I was built differently. I had a couple of experiences in my life that because so many victims I talk to who are devastated, they tell me, if I go to police, do I have to use my name? I'm like, yeah, you got to use your name, lady. Like, that's the least of what you got to do. Like, this is going to be an uphill battle. Of course, you got to go public. Absolutely.
Is that because there's like shame?
There is shame, and it has a lot to do with one of the red flags I write about, the TMI technique, I call it. So you meet a con artist, they're red flag number 1, too kind, too quick. Red flag number 2, they offer to help you, which is red flag number 1, they offer to help you. Red flag number 2, they're too kind, too quick. Red flag number 3, they create a lot of drama. After you trust them, they unsettle you with drama.
So you're just not thinking straight.
Exactly.
You're kind of reacting.
Exactly. And in my case, the drama, and this pains me to admit it, but it's true, and this is a teachable moment for everyone. Technically, she never asked me for any money. I offered.
Wow.
I offered.
You offered.
Yeah. But that's how brilliant.
How does that feel in retrospect?
I want to punch myself. But I got to forgive myself, and I got to tell other victims to forgive themselves, because they're Svengalis. They're brilliant people, these con men and con women. So they'll drop the breadcrumbs and they create the perfect scenario. And the ironic thing, another paradox here, it's not about the money for them. In a lot of these cons, money is secondary. The thrill, because there were some cons my con artist executed that had nothing to do with money. For instance, when she was pretending to be best friends with Jennifer Aniston, one of the victims I write about in the book, she befriends is a producer named Tess, and she quickly shows Tess that she's best friends with Jennifer Aniston. Look, Jen just texted me. Look, she's having trouble with Justin. Look, and Tess believes it because we're in LA, we work in Hollywood. It's conceivable somebody's best friends with Jennifer Aniston that I know, and in that instance, that was Tess, and Mare was my con woman's name. So in 2015, Mare says, "Hey, Tess, Jennifer Aniston is inviting me to come to the Golden Globes with her. She says, I can bring someone. Do you want to come with me?" And Tess, who's a producer, is ecstatic. Like, she's never been to the Golden Globes. This is going to be amazing. She goes out and finds a dress. She's getting ready, putting her makeup on in the morning. And then she gets the text from my con woman. Jen is feeling under the weather. She just wants to be alone at the Golden Globes this year. I'm so sorry. She's rescinding. And then Tess, crestfallen, puts her dress back in the closet, takes her makeup off, and okay, things happen. So Tess and I have talked about this at length. What was the point of that con? There was no money involved.
It's so fucked up.
It is fucked up, but con people enjoy creating worlds that do not exist and watching us all act how they think we're going to act, say what we want, what they want us to say. They get a godlike sense of, I'm a creator, which I get, and you get. I'm a TV producer. I'm an author. I like writing. I like sharing my creation with the world. So I get that sense of, I want to put something out there. But with a con artist, they're psychopaths. So what they're creating, it's almost like they're shooting a movie and casting everyone as actors, but everyone doesn't know that. They're the only ones who know this movie's happening. And they get a childlike sense of glee watching all of us do what they planned for us to do. Look, in my case, she never asked me for money. Imagine how she felt when I offered. She's like, yes, I knew he would. This is what I've done this all for. We got him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the book's called Anatomy of a Con Artist. How much is a con artist doing this consciously? How much are they thinking through some sort of grand strategy? Or is it just kind of part of their personality? They're just doing it.
And, this is up for debate, and I've debated this with a lot of people. There's a school of thought out there that thinks con artists are made from, they're psychopaths. So some childhood trauma or something happened that changed them. But I don't think that's the case. I think con artists are born like serial killers. They're born. Someone doesn't just become a serial killer one day. You're born. You examine the lives of serial killers that we know, and you examine the life of any psychopath. They've been that way forever. And with a con artist like my con artist, she knows that something's wrong with her as a child. She knows she has no empathy or feeling for other people like other people do. So she knows how to cover and mask and create a vision of herself that people like. And every time she gets caught, or every time there's like a dropped jaw reaction to something she said and did as a kid, it's a mental note. Oh, can't do that again. Let me fix. They get better and better as they get older. So by the time I caught my con artist red-handed and confronted her and went to police and ultimately got her charged, arrested, convicted, and ultimately extradited to the UK because she lived over there for 8 years and scammed a bunch of people in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. And she just got convicted over there thanks to me. So they learn how to cover who they are, and they just get off on the con. They're not people as we understand people to be. They're not regular criminals. You look at...
So it's all con artists are sociopaths.
Psychopaths. Yeah. I spent time with Candace DeLong, who's a criminal profiler, former criminal profiler for the FBI. And they are all psychopaths, and they're all what the FBI calls rescue merchants. So
what does that mean?
When there's a situation, and this is how I met my con artist, and this is how she entered my life offering to help, red flag number one. When there's something bad happening in life, when there's a tragedy, when there's a calamity, when there is unrest, regular people are going the other way. Regular people are avoiding this whole thing. Like, I don't want to be involved in that.
Sure.
But a con artist heads into it because they want to figure out a way to help. But they don't really want to help. They want to say they want to help because who doesn't love a helper? And that's how they get in there. With me, our building in downtown Los Angeles that I was living in at the time, we lost our swimming pool with a legal fight with another building, and all the residents were up in arms, and we're going to get the pool back. So I took it upon myself to galvanize the residents. I went around, distributed 444 flyers under everyone's door, stuck up flyers in the elevator, in the parking garage, in the lobby. It's a lot of work.
Quite the campaign.
Yes, and I was giving, little did I know, my con artist all the info about me she needed to craft the perfect con for me. I think back, she must have saw my flyer there in the lobby and thought to herself, because she was a neighbor in my building. I did not know her at that point. But she must have looked at that flyer and thought, this guy's a do-gooder. I'm going to get him to do good for me. Oh. And she crafted the perfect con for me, where she's a damsel in distress, and I was trying to help her.
You're trying to rescue her just like the pool.
Exactly. It's kind of stunning how much we give ourselves away without intending to. So I was giving her all the information she needed. But I have no doubt she was born that way. I mean, I know, I spoke to her childhood friend. This is a girl she knew, a woman named Jen Westwood. I interviewed her for the book and for the podcast. And she knew her at 10, 11 years old. There are two girls together, 10, 11 years old. And at 10, 11 years old, my con artist is tricking this little girl into going into a stranger's house, telling her it's her house. It's a big mansion. They snuck in.
So this really is something that starts in
childhood. It is, because again, there was no money. What was to be gained? Nothing. Just, can I convince this little girl to do what I want and create this world that this is my house?
Wow.
Yes, I did. Because Jen Westwood, the little girl, the victim, for all intents and purposes, she's scratching her head to this day wondering, what was that about? What was the purpose of doing that? She gained nothing. And I'm like, no. She got practice. She's, working out her con artist muscle.
Wow.
And she was successful at that age. So she just got better and better and better. But here's the thing. Con artists are everywhere. They're everywhere. So back to my mother's story. I forgot to finish that story. So my mother, after I get publicity and I'm celebrated and whatever, as putting my con artist in jail. And, up until that point, everyone thought I was a lunatic. Up until I got her arrested, my husband, my best friends, my family were like, listen, Jonathan, you need to let this go. You're like losing your effing mind. Like, we don't know you anymore. I was having like murder fantasies. Like, I was becoming someone I did not know, but I was obsessed with bringing this woman to justice. So after it all worked out in my favor, thank God, and everyone's celebrating me instead of, telling me, you got to let it go, is when my mother told me, this woman we knew as a child, there's a woman in our life, in my mother's life, she was a family friend, another woman, not my con artist, another woman. And this woman shared a lot of traits, now that I think about it, with my con artist. She was charismatic. She was fun. She was irreverent. She was smart and funny and generous. And she was at every family function, every birthday party, every holiday party. This woman was there. Come to find out, she scammed my mom out of like $20,000. My mom never told anyone. And then my mom found out like 15, 20 years later, after running up in someone else's supermarket she hadn't seen in a while, she scammed that person too. She scammed almost everyone in my mother's social sphere, and no one was talking about it. And now this woman has since moved away. That's another red flag I write about in the book. Con artists move around a lot. They move, most regular
like a parasite.
people. Yes.
Just take all the money and then move to the next town.
Because eventually they're busted. Eventually they run out of people to scam. Eventually their cover's blown and they got to get the hell out of Dodge.
Story of the Music Man.
Exactly. Exactly. It is. It is. It's a story. You know, these stories exist because they're true. So most regular people will live at a total of 11 addresses in their entire life. 11. And that's true for me. So far I'm at like 9 and I'm 50. So maybe I got a couple more moves in me before I croak.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they arrested my con woman, she had 46 different addresses. 46. So that's a red flag. So if someone new, the new boyfriend, the new girlfriend comes into your life and they offer to help and they're too kind, too quick, and they got a lot of drama. Another red flag I write about, stories from faraway places. Con artists love telling stories from faraway places. That's how they fill out their whole life to you. Because human nature being what it is, these stories are hard to verify. So if someone says, oh, I was on and this is a con that this is a story my con would tell people. She was on the Olympic ice skating team in Maine back in 1983.
So it's like how you're going to verify that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And human nature being what it is, and these people are experts at engineering human nature against us. If you can't prove something's false, you just accept it as true. So again, that new person in your life, they offer to help. They're too kind, too quick. They're whining and dining you. They're taking you on vacations. My con woman took my husband and me on this nice, amazing vacation to Palm Springs and paid for everything and wined and dined us. And she was always giving us gifts. They got the stories from faraway places. They're using the TMI technique. That's a technique my con artists used on me. All con artists use on their victims. And it has a two-prong approach. Number one, this new person you're meeting, all of a sudden they start divulging their deep, dark secrets to you way too soon. Like you just met them, and now you know that their mother committed murder and is like you're knowing all their dirt. And that does two things. Number one, it makes you think, wow, this person must really trust me. And number two, you think, I can trust them. So then you start divulging your deep, dark secrets. And over the course of weeks or months, or in my case, years, by the time the money changes hands, by the time they scam you, they know all your secrets. You don't want to go to police. You don't want to tell a goddamn soul because, oh my God, what if the con artist tells everyone my secrets? Like, I just want to leave her alone. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. And the con woman or con man lives to scam another day because they've got your silence.
It's like blackmail without even have to say it.
Exactly. But I was cut from different cloth. I look back at my life, most victims tell me, weren't you scared to go to police? Like, weren't you scared what people are going to think of you? And it literally never occurred to me because of two pivotal things that happened in my own life. Number one, coming out as gay, right? I came out when I was 30. For any gay person, you have to accept not everyone's going to be cool that you're gay. You can't care. If you cared, you'd never come out. So already that was a help. But even earlier than that in my life, I was a television reporter. I got my first on-air job at 24, 25 years old in San Antonio, Texas at KBB TV. They hired me as this funny feature reporter, right? So I'd never been on the air. I'd just come out of school, got my broadcast journalism degree, and I got this nice job in a pretty sizable market for a starter, market 37 at the time, San Antonio. It's a nice city. It's got like 1 million plus people. So my first night on the air, I spend the whole day shooting this really funny story, or what I thought's a really funny story about me arriving in San Antonio, looking for fun things to do. The plane crashes. I got a clip from Die Hard of the plane crash. Like, I thought it was really funny, right? So I spend all day shooting and writing and editing this, and I front it in the studio, and the anchors are applauding. The anchors are dying. They love it. I'm a hit. I walk back into the newsroom, KBB TV. Greg Kelfkin, the executive producer, God rest his soul, standing up applauding. All the reporters are standing up applauding. Alan Little, the guy who hired me, standing up applauding, the news director. I was king of the effing world. Like, have you ever walked into a busy newsroom and everyone pauses, stands up and applauds? Like, I felt like the shit. Like, I'm amazing. Like, oh my God, I'm so great. Then I go to my desk 60 seconds later and I get my first viewer voicemail. Angry Texas woman. She's like, you bald-headed motherfucking faggot. You so fucking ugly. How the hell you get on TV, bald-headed motherfucking faggot? And I laughed it off when it was happening because that's what we do in trauma. But I was devastated. Devastated. I went home that night, coiled in the fetal position, sleeping, crying, thinking, I can't do this job. Like, what am I? Am I brilliant that deserves a standing ovation, or am I too ugly and dumb and what to be on TV? Like, what am I? I don't know. You know, like, I'm 24, 25 years old, like losing my mind. I don't know what I am. Like, I thought I was good, but maybe I'm not good. But so at that point, in the ensuing weeks, I quickly learned I can't care what people think. I can't ask their opinions, because if you ask 10 people their opinion on one thing, you'll get 10 different opinions. Who's right? Who's to say? I don't know. So I got to stick with what I think. I can't. So I got practiced at blocking out and disregarding, not even considering what people think at 24. So by the time I got conned 20 years later, it literally never occurred to me. And it's only because I've interviewed so many other victims, I realized that's a chief concern. What are people going to think? It shackles everyone, but it had no effect on me. Because I because of those two situations, one, coming out as gay, and two, earlier, having that horrendous experience where it's like, am I brilliant or am I horrible? What am I? Well, I'm probably somewhere in the middle, and that's fine, you know? So that armed me to bring my con artist to justice and work on all these other cases and write the book. You can't care what people think. It'll destroy you.
Walk me through that rock bottom moment of when you knew that you were being conned. Did it happen all of a sudden, or was it gradual?
You know, there's that famous expression, lies are like rats. When you find one, it means there are thousands of others hiding, right? So I found her in the first lie, and I just started pulling at that thread, and I found lie after lie after lie after lie. And when I confronted her, she denied it. And, you know, tears welled up in her eyes. But at that point, I was immune because she was such a brilliant actress. At the time when her family was trying to destroy her, family did not exist, it's all a lie, she would cry, convulsing. I would be rocking her in my arms. Her tears are wetting my shirt. Tears. She's crying. There is no way you could have convinced me that wasn't real. But it wasn't. What she was crying over, her family, fictitious creation she invented, did not exist. Like, nothing she was crying over was real. This was just part of her show. So when I confronted her and tears filled her eyes, I'm like, no. That's all fake. Like, that's not true.
Because part of the lie you've heard about was the family?
That's one. Yeah. There are a million. Everything she told me about her life was a lie. So she wasn't an Irish heiress. You know, she had this framed Irish constitution hanging on her wall because she was an Irish heiress. Her great-great-grandfather, some people she said great-great-uncle, was the founder of Ireland. His signature's at the bottom. Like, you know, and she told me, and this is but it's so powerful. She's like, listen, don't tell the consulate of Ireland I'm here in LA, because they would be so upset if they knew that I didn't alert them, because there's a protocol. And I'm like, all right, I'll keep your secret. But pulling someone into your confidence, that's a great technique to manipulate them later. You make them feel that you value them. You make them feel that you trust them, and they feel like they can trust you. You know, so many of these psychological tricks she pulled, and I wrote them all down, and they're common in every other case I would go on to investigate. And I play this game with myself a lot lately. If I knew then what I know now about the 14 red flags of every con artist, would I be able to tell she was a con artist if I met her today?
Yeah.
I never met her before. If I met her today, would I know? And the answer is, Absolutely.
That's good.
She was waving every one of the 14 red flags I write about in the book. Every one of them. Almost immediately. She had the stories in faraway places. She was too kind, too quick. God, there was so much drama in her life, but it was all manufactured.
So it seems like this book is really something that people could arm themselves to like defend themselves around the con artists that are out there.
Yeah, and when it happened, it was the lowest point in my life. I was devastated. And in the ensuing 3 or 4 months thereafter, I started having these elaborate murder fantasies, right? And I'm a vegetarian. I'm a live and let live. I catch the spider inside in a cup in a paper and release it into the wild. I don't care. I'm a live and let live. That is my mantra. But I remember telling my buddy Evan about these murder fantasies, and the look on his face, he was terrified for me. He's like, I don't know who you are anymore. Like, you need help. So I started looking into help, and it was in that process of trying to find a doctor that I learned it's completely normal for a victim to fantasize about harming their perpetrator. Completely normal. And it eventually subsided. It eventually subsides in all victims. But man, there were 3 reoccurring daydreams I was having. One was I was throwing her off the top of our building and watching her body splat on the floor. But it brought me joy. Like, these are daydreams. I'm like, it brought me relief. Another, I was throwing her down a flight of stairs and watching her body tumble and break her neck at the end. I loved it. And my favorite, which I called up a lot while I'm at work, while I'm driving, for comfort, I would be strangling her and watching the life drift out of her eyes.
Oh my God.
I became something I did not know I could become.
Wow.
And I wasn't scared. I enjoyed it. I get the serial killer thing. I'm not a serial killer. I've never killed anyone, but I get it. Like, when you're in that mindset and this person has brought you so much pain, you just want some kind of relief, that when the police have turned you away.
Because you declared bankruptcy.
I did. I went bankrupt. Yeah. It was devastating. And if you told me then that I'd be sitting here now talking to you, I wouldn't believe you. I did not see a way out of this. It was just a dark, dark time.
When did you realize the money wasn't coming back?
In the instant I caught her in the first lie. The first lie was, so she had gone to jail for 30 days. So part of her scam to me was her family's setting her up to make it look like she stole money because they're trying to get her disinherited, because there's a moral turpitude clause in the will that her uncle left her this 25 million euro estate. And if any heir is convicted of a felony, they forfeit. So she created this lie that the company she worked for at the time was friends with her cousin, competing for the rest of the inheritance. And I warned her. I said, you be careful. They're friends. They could set you up. Again, I was a TV reporter. I'd worked in the news business for 10 years. How frequent are those stories about husbands who kill their wives for $1 million insurance policy? Happens all the time. So I warned her. Next thing you know, I get a call. She's in jail. Jonathan, you were right. They arrested me. They did arrest her, but she really did steal like nearly $250,000 from the company. But she made it look like I was right, and they're trying to get her disinherited. And so that's how she got
was arrested for something totally different.
She was arrested for stealing. Yeah. But that's not what she took. She spun it. They're always spinning. There is a kernel of truth to every con, but it's only a kernel. And everything else is an elaborate house of cards built on a kernel.
So what can people listening do to protect themselves?
I think know what the red flags are, and nothing pleases me more than to go on Amazon and see the reviews of my book, or to go on Goodreads and see the reviews. And there are a few reviews on there where people tell me, thank you. I was dating this guy or dating this girl, and they were waving 7 of the 14 red flags you write about, and then they asked for money. And then I knew to walk away. Because by the time there's an ask for money, this is what people need to understand. You people out there, I could never get conned. By the time the money is asked for or offered, you love them. You love this person. You care about them, or you care about the situation they've created out of whole cloth. So it's not a matter of a stranger on the street, hey man, give me $1 million. No, this is a person, I loved her like a sister. I loved her. Love is the most powerful force there is in the universe. You'll kill for love. You'll die for love. So by the time the money is asked for or offered, you love them. It's too late. So the reviews I love reading are people who thank me. the red flags are obvious if you know what they are, but if you don't, you'll miss them. It's like Times Square, busy cross section of the world, right? Thousands of people rushing by you. If you stand up in Times Square, you don't see anything. But if I tell you, look for the guy with the brown bowler hat, you can spot that guy 100 feet away. Even if there's a mass of 1 million, there he is, the brown hat, I see it. These red flags are the same way. I'll tell you what they are. I'll show you how they present. That book is not just my case. It's based on hundreds of other cases, dozens of which I get into in the book. Victims who are fighting back. I present cons in every which kind of way. Love cons, investment cons, the Spanish prisoner con, which is like the con I fell for. There are all these categories, and there is nothing new under the sun. These cons have been operating for thousands of years, the same exact way, the same exact red flags. If I knew then what I know now, I would never have gotten conned. I would have recognized my new neighbor as a con woman. She's from Ireland. She's telling me these stories from faraway places. She offered to help. She was too kind, too quick. There was so much drama. She would scam with bank wires. She scammed other victims using be suspicious of bank wires. And red flag number 14 I write about in the book is Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is con artist college. They all read that book. They all learn those techniques.
So when they're talking to you, you feel like you like them. You feel like they're your friend because they're doing these.
And I didn't know this until much later. My con woman with me would use my name a lot on me. And that's a Dale Carnegie technique because Dale Carnegie writes, to a person, their name is the sweetest sound they've ever heard. So use it a lot.
That's a great point, Jonathan.
But while it's happening, I didn't she would say that Jonathan and this Jonathan, that Jonathan. And even when she would text or email me, Jonathan, blah, 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 Jonathan, I always noticed it, but I never I didn't know why she was, but now I know why she was. That is a go-to Dale Carnegie technique. And they all use it.
You mentioned love cons and investment cons. Are there moments in someone's life where they're more vulnerable or more susceptible? And is there something that people can do to kind of build up their armor on like an internal level?
Everyone is susceptible. And a professional con artist works by figuring out what your weakness is. We all have a weakness. Look without going into the hundreds of other cases in the book, look at my case. For me, I was gay and my family had kind of disowned me at the time. We've since made amends and I'm back in and everything's great. But for 8 years, it wasn't. And that's the time I met her. So she became this, me too. My family disowned me. And we bonded over that. But that same con woman later goes on to scam Bob, the Newport Beach engineer. He's going through a divorce, doesn't like his custody arrangement. She becomes a child custody investigator, offers to help him with that. So a con artist is looking for what you need help with.
So it's not anything specific.
No,
it's like
it's different every
whatever
time.
Someone's going through,
Exactly.
they can kind of fit themselves to extract.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're shapeshifters.
Wow.
Yeah. My con woman became whatever a victim needed or wanted help with. She became that and offered to help. The help was never real. But you don't know that. You're dazzled by the offer. And you let them in. And when you let them in, they're like vampires. You invite them in, they have all the power.
So what does your work look like now advocating for other victims? And tell me more about this vigilante justice aspect of things.
Again, I'm one guy. I hope to have a glossy TV show one day on like a major network or streamer where, the con hunter, where I'm helping victims and I have money and I can hire teams of people to go after
That sounds awesome.
That's my plan ultimately. But right now it's just me. I do public speaking. I travel the world, talking to groups, presenting the flags, but it's not just academic, right? I've lived this. So I'm not just presenting the flags like red flag number 1. This is what it looks like. This is what it looked like for me. This is what it looks like in other cases. Yeah. So I hit home, and a lot of these talks I give, they'll allot 10 minutes or 20 minutes for Q&A at the end. Some have gone on for hours, because a lot of people are confessing for the first time they're run-in with a con artist and they've never talked about it. But I give them power, and I enjoy that. I'm so glad. I'm glad I got conned, which is a crazy thing to say, but look at what it turned me into. It was almost like like a vaccine. Like you get a vaccine and you get sick and you can barely move, but then you get up and you get strong and you're not going to catch that effing thing again.
It's true.
And you're better.
Pretty expensive vaccine. pretty
It
painful.
is, but it's painful, but
Yeah.
I'm at the other end of it now.
Right,
And you
right.
know,
You're stronger.
I'm much stronger, smarter, and I would never want to go back to being that naive person ever again.
Yeah. Well, final question is, what's something that you would say to your younger self?
Background checker, Jonathan. Background checker. You know, and I write about this in the book. There are these websites, Intellius or Been Verified. There are dozens of them. You can run a background check on someone for like $30, you know, and it can be very eye-opening. And this is what I do now with all the new people in my life. I background check them. I don't tell them because you don't want to come off like a psycho, but that one, had I a background check the woman I just met who ended up conning me out of close to $100,000, I would have seen her felonies for fraud and grand theft in multiple states.
Oh, wow.
And I would have never spoken to her again.
Yeah.
But who thinks to background check someone new in your life? I do, and I recommend it. It's only $30. You're dating. If you're single and you're dating and you think you love the guy or the girl and it's the fourth date or you're moving in together or whatever, spend $30, background check them, see if they've been charged with something, see who's suing them or who they're suing. You know, it's better to know than not to know. So that's what I would tell young Jonathan Walton.
Yeah.
Background check.
That's really practical advice. I think a lot of people can get. Anatomy of a Con Artist. It's out everywhere books are sold. Jonathan Walton, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. And I also read the audiobook myself. It took me a week. I recorded it in the same studio Meryl Streep was in.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's that vibe. But
Okay.
I read the audiobook. Yeah, so it's on audio also.
excellent.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
And scene.